Welcome to the Merge Feast, the podcast where we satisfy your cravings for all things Survivor. We are your hosts, Sam and Mags, and this is a recap for season 45, episode 7. Mags, I want you to describe to me your current emotional state after watching episode 7.
I'm not going to lie, my feelings are all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
The result of the episode left me really bummed. The coming up next week left me really excited. So I'm kind of a good mix right now. What about you?
I feel like I feel at balance with the universe. Like I can really read energy really, really well as a master instructor, and I feel totally at peace with everything that happened in today's episode. We do have a lot to recap. Should we get into it?
Let's do it.
We get another previously on Survivor, and right away, the foreshadowing begins, just showing that Bruce and Katura's battle is about to come to a head, and showing their history of Bruce saying things, Katura being annoyed at those things, back and forth. It's basically how this whole episode starts. I felt like after watching this part that definitely something was going to happen between the two of them in this episode. What did you think?
I definitely like to read into the edgic, is what they call it, but that's like the logic and editing of things. And oftentimes it doesn't get you anywhere, but because it was alluding to so much of that, I kept thinking like, oh, this tribe split is really gonna get one of these two out, and it's going to be because of these issues they're having. So for it to kind of just fizzle out into nothing in the end did kind of bum me out a little bit because I love the drama.
After the Bruce and Katura drama, we get a brief recap of the amazing shot in the dark play that left us all on a high last episode. Caleb saving himself with the shot in the dark. First time it's ever worked. Now, since last podcast, I've done some thinking about this shot in the dark play.
Okay, let's hear it.
And I have some beef. Not with the shot in the dark itself or with Caleb playing it. All that part of it I thought was great. My beef is with the rest of the players.
Okay.
We had a unanimous vote on Caleb for this vote.
I think I know where you're going with this.
How in the world in season 45
are they not splitting a vote?
Are we not splitting a vote? Like nobody knows. Nobody knows if Caleb has an idol or an advantage or something that he somehow got from somebody that he could play. Everybody also knows he has his shot in the dark. So with 12 people out there, how is nobody suggesting, hey, let's just throw 2 votes on the next person that we want to go home? So it's then, we don't have to go through the whole revote. What year is it? That's what I'm wondering.
When I first started watching Survivor, you introduced it to me at the Millennials versus Gen X season. Mm-hmm. And in this season, I was so confused because it was the first one I had ever seen, and they split nearly every single vote. And it used to drive me nuts because, only 5% of the time did somebody have an advantage. There's a higher percentage now that people have an advantage in this new era of Survivor that honestly splitting a vote is almost becoming a necessary thing each tribal.
And somehow nobody even thought of it for this tribal. Anyway, that's my beef. I just wanted everybody on the beach to kind of wake up. That's what I would do if I were Jeff. Say, what is wrong with you guys? Have you never seen this show before? I would just rip into him. We go from the previously on Survivor. We transition to the after the vote. We got the nighttime beach scenes. Caleb, of course, is on a high, which, of course, maybe he shouldn't be considering everybody voted for him. But how could you not be?
And honestly, I felt like he handled it very well. We're on a season where people are coming back to camp and handling things in a better way than I ever could. But I think everybody's handling this great. He isn't mad or salty that everybody voted for him, although I'm sure he is deep down, but he's not showing that. and everybody else is just kind of laughing like, what a good play. I appreciated this because Caleb did have a lot of reason to come back with a lot of animosity.
The high of finally getting the shot in the dark to work just left everybody with positive feelings, whether they, have whether their vote worked or not. And Caleb seems to not really care so much. I mean, he can't, right? If he holds a vendetta against everybody who voted for him, then he pretty much holds a vendetta against everybody left in the
Right.
game. So he has to let it go,
Yes.
and he does.
He does say in his talking head to the camera, I don't have any friends here. And honestly, that kind of bugged me a little bit because it's like, hello, Emily, the person who warned you that everybody is voting for you, the reason you knew to play your shot in the dark. It just bothered me a little bit because I think they have such a close bond that he belittled it in that way that kind of made me sad. But, I love Caleb, so it's hard to say anything bad about the guy.
That's right. After this, we have Bruce calling out Katura for seemingly no reason, just to stir up a little bit of drama.
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce a new segment here.
Okay.
The segment's going to be called, is this a quote from Bruce or a drunk guy? This is what he says to Katura. I have a question for you. You were so much on the fence with us for voting for Caleb, and you did. Now here's the question I'm going to ask. You were so much on the fence. Is that a phrase?
That's drunk guy. That's my answer on this one. That must be drunk guy. You were so much on the fence.
You were so much on the fence. I have a question for you. Now here's the question I'm going to ask. It reminds me of the guy on Parks and Rec, the newscaster who's like, on today's news, I have news for today.
You heard with Purd.
Yeah.
The news I'm telling you are the words that I'm speaking at the moment to you now. Yes, Bruce has a way with words. I mean, it's what made him a fan favorite from last season.
As if. Also, in another talking head from Katura, she has the title of this episode, which is called The Thorn in My Thumb. And I just would really like to say, when you're on Survivor, don't mess up a popular and common saying because they're going to point it out. They're going to air it and they're going to make it the title of the episode. I cannot remember this, but there was I want to say typo. What's the real life version of a typo?
Like a verbal typo?
Yeah, like somebody misspoke.
Snafu.
Yeah. Anyways, you and I watched this episode together, and it's a contestant from a little bit ago, and oh my gosh, I just remembered it. I'm so excited. It's a guy with curly hair, and he says, I am bum puzzled. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
He's talking about being confused.
He's trying to say he's been bamboozled. Yeah. But he says, yes, I'm bum puzzled. This actually reminds me of another legendary tribal council moment when Tyson is sitting there.
Oh, one of my all-time favorite Survivor moments.
And who's the guy talking?
I don't know. Everybody's a nobody compared to Tyson.
Yeah, and he's saying, he's just trying to rustle feathers. And Tyson cuts him off and says, it's ruffle feathers. And
it's an intense moment. This is not the moment where you correct somebody.
He's angry.
Yes.
Talking about rustling feathers. And Tyson just has to cut him off and say, no, it's ruffle feathers. And everybody looks at Tyson. Jeff, the guy talking, everybody looks at Tyson like, are you serious right now?
That's what makes Tyson such a fantastic player. But that was also the title of that episode. So that's what I'm just saying is, you make a mistake on Survivor, they're not just going to breeze past it. They're going to air it and they're going to make it the title of the episode, so everybody's waiting for your mistake to happen.
From there, we get morning on the Dakuwaka Beach. That's what they've named their merged
Yeah, I really
tribe.
wanted the story behind that, but I don't think we're going to get it.
Yeah, they didn't seem to mention it at all. But that's what it's called, the Dakuwaka.
Back in the day on Survivor, you would almost always see them naming the merged beach tribe together. And then I feel like you'd always find out in the end that somebody just made up some word that was important to their spouse back home or the name of their daughter's stuffed animal. And I really liked whenever people had those little ties like that. But I just wonder if now everybody is so suspicious of stuff like that.
Yeah, it would always be like, I think we should name the tribe Traff. It's, it's like a Fijian word. It means like people of the sea. It's like we are the Traff. And then it would cut to a talking head of that person cracking up and going, it's just fart spelled backwards. And everybody agreed on it and they put it on the flag. That's what it used to be like. Now we just get a
Exactly.
little scroll at the bottom that tells
Yes.
us what it
Like
is.
Boston Rob got them to name their tribe after his wife Amber's like toy bunny.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that
And said
one.
it was like a Spanish word that meant like together.
Well, who knows what dakuwaka means, but in the morning here we have Katura going and kind of trying to pit people against Bruce. It seems like Kendra's on board with that. She doesn't like Bruce. Kelly openly is annoyed with Bruce, but Kelly points out that Bruce is constantly telling her that she's his number one. And so she wants to keep Bruce as a number, as a shield, as like someone, at her disposal. She doesn't want to get rid of him quite yet, but she's getting pretty sick of having to work with him. We do get a scene of Emily and Caleb with their special bond. This is kind of a cute scene, Emily talking to Caleb, giving him some hope, like,
yes.
you can do it.
They do that for each other.
This is a completely different day for you. You can move past what happened last night. And yeah, it does show what you were just saying, that Caleb does have a friend on the beach. Caleb, just open your eyes. Emily is there for you. Austin now finally has his fully fledged idol, and he really benefits from the fact that there were so many people voting last night that nobody counted all of the Caleb votes.
Yep, he really did. I would say in this new era of Survivor, if I were to ever go on and play, I would count every vote at Tribal Council because you never know when something like this is going to happen.
Mm-hmm. And so everybody thinks that 12 people voted Caleb, but in reality, there are only 11 votes for Caleb because Austin didn't vote, and nobody picks up on it. But Austin now has his fully fledged hidden immunity idol that he can use whenever he wants up until the final 5.
Yes.
He's sacrificed his vote 2 times to make that happen. So he's in a more powerful position than he's ever been.
He's looking great.
He
and
is.
He didn't tell Drew, which I think is fantastic.
Yep.
Whether or not Drew picked up on that, we don't know. But it always drives me nuts whenever there's a tight duo that really do share everything with each other, share all information, because at some point they have to use that against each other. And it's really good if your number one thinks they know everything, but they don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at some point you're going to have to most likely turn on each other.
Yep.
Especially if, you've been both playing the same great game.
Yes. If you're a duo, you have got the same resume, so you're not going to the end together.
Exactly. Now we get Bruce just not being able to help himself. He's got to, like, in this moment, he's telling Sifu how to do his job, basically. Like,
yeah.
I don't understand fully what Sifu's job actually is.
Me either.
But Bruce seems to.
No. Bruce doesn't understand it. He knows better.
Yeah, he's showing Sifu what they're talking about. He just can't help himself. He's got to interject and share his knowledge. And he is just getting on everybody's nerves.
Absolutely.
He's getting on Caleb's nerves, of course. The hilarity of this, he and Caleb have kind of this one-on-one conversation that just does not go well. I think Bruce thinks it goes well.
Yeah.
But it does not go well for Bruce.
This conversation is actually another segment of Bruce or a drunk guy.
Are all the answers Bruce?
Spoiler, yes.
Yeah. Okay, I'm excited.
All right, here it is. This is verbatim, by the way.
Okay.
Both of these quotes, I paused and I wrote down exactly what he said. So, my son was a quarterback on the team. He throws a pick. I talk to him in a way that's like a check. Like, okay, you threw a pick. Check. Because when you're a quarterback of the team, now you're thinking that the other 10 guys on that side of the ball are going to be like, oh, what the dude's going to throw another pick. He's got to throw another pick. He threw one last time. I'm going to say be wary of the bedfellows that you keep.
What?
What was the message from that?
I don't understand. Move on from the pick. So Caleb, he does say like you stumbled, which Caleb just had one of the biggest triumphs in Survivor history.
I
So
don't know what
it's
he's talking
hilarious.
about.
But yeah, he says, beware of the bedfellows that you keep. I don't even know what a bedfellow is.
I know.
Is that someone like a servant who makes your bed for
Yes,
you?
and Caleb says like, oh, like be careful who I sleep next to in camp.
Uh-huh.
And Bruce is like, no, but doesn't elaborate what it actually means.
He's like, no, that's not what I mean. And then as he tries to figure out what he actually meant, he also gets lost in the analogy.
He's like Michael Scott when Michael's like, sometimes I just start a sentence and I just hope it finds the way.
Exactly. That is, just hope that, I don't know where I'm going with it, but I just hope that let it come to me.
And in a little talking head after, Bruce says that Caleb, like you said, kind of trips up. And he says, Caleb is manipulative. And this bothers me. I know that I stand for Caleb. Mm-hmm. But this bothered me. Even if I wasn't a Caleb fan, you can see it. Caleb's not manipulating anybody. Mm-hmm. Being a smiling, nice person, mm-hmm. if that's who you really are, which I believe is Caleb, is not manipulative at all. He wasn't tricking anybody. He wasn't putting on two different faces. I was just so confused. Bruce is just trying to throw buzzwords around. Mm-hmm.
He's manipulative because he gets people to like him.
Yeah, because he's a likable person.
And it seems like the only way Bruce can get people to like him is by lying to them and being someone he's not.
Honestly.
Man, I mean, Bruce is just on a roll here because he's then talking to Kelly, and Kelly kind of calls him out for what he did last night to Katura and all the things he's been saying on the beach. And Bruce defends himself by saying, hey, I've always been an honest, straight shooter. That's just who I am. And Kelly, it was all she could do to not say, Bruce, it's not your honesty. It's your stupidity that's the problem. She was really holding back. I could just tell. It was just right. The words were there. Yes. She just wanted to say them.
Keep your eye on Kelly. She is the dark horse of this season for me. This was a fantastic episode for her. She's doing great. To be able to, there's always a person. No, actually, there's not. It takes a lot to be able to handle somebody with a personality like Bruce and to see the bigger picture of why keeping them around is actually a good thing for you. And she's got it. And she's got the mental strength to put up with Bruce so that it looks good for her in the end.
Now, if she goes far and she ends up winning this thing, I'm going to have to pull the old recording from our previous podcast where you say Kelly is definitely not going to win.
Did I say that? Who even is Kelly? All I'm trying to say is that Kelly's not going to be the winner of this season. Using some logic and the edit that she's getting, if you don't know who this girl is on the first episode, she's not going to win.
You never know.
You know a little. Okay. That was on episode 2 or 3.
1 or 2.
And that's what I'm saying about the logic and the editing. I do like to pull from that. So if you're not getting a lot of screen time, it's suspicious. But she's getting screen time now. It's Julie who we should be suspicious of.
Julie's the one who's definitely not going anywhere.
And not just because of screen time. Before we leave this little area on the beach, we do get a little moment of Jake and Caleb chatting. It shows Caleb's face, and in the background it shows a dead man's foot. So it would seem it's Jake's foot that looks, I don't know how else to say it besides like a dead man's foot. And he has one shoe on, and then his dead foot, no shoe on. And it kind of at first it looks like there's a weird light on that's making his foot look this way. No. That's just the way his foot looks, okay? I'm going to take a screenshot and I'm going to post it on our Instagram. I'm going to start doing that. I'll put the screenshots of everything that we refer to so you can go and see it on our Instagram post. But I had this whole bit about how I was going to make fun of his foot. And then moments later, it cuts to a shot of him limping.
I hope you feel terrible.
So, anyways, I'll leave the bit out, but I did just want to say it. I took a picture. I also failed to mention when we were talking about Kelly and Bruce talking, something that separates a player from a great player in Survivor is being able to take feedback and to adapt. Take, for example, the case of Emily versus Bruce. Emily got some life-changing feedback from Caleb about being more approachable, being more friendly. That changed her whole game. That, her being able to take that feedback may have made her $1 million.
Yeah.
Bruce can't take the feedback. Kelly tries to give him some, maybe don't bring up or attack members of our alliance in front of other people. It makes us look weak. We just need to stay strong. And, Bruce goes with that whole thing. I am who I am. I've always been honest, all that stuff, blah, blah, blah. And that's not going to win you $1 million in this game.
I wanted to, before we move on to the challenge, talk about what an incredibly, in some ways beautiful, fall from grace Bruce has had during this season. Like, he came in as poor Bruce, smashed his head in the first, 5 minutes of last season, got medevaced off of the beach without really having any Survivor experience. He was on the beach for a total of 12 hours, got helicoptered off to go get his head fixed up, and everybody felt bad for him.
Right.
Everybody felt like this poor guy didn't get his chance, and he was liked because of the pity, right? And now he is evolving, not evolving in terms of who he is, because like we just said, he doesn't change. But in our eyes, the more we get to see of him, he goes from this pitiable, sad, likable guy to this villain who is antagonizing and just gets on your nerves, says things that seem outlandish and unnecessary, and is really become the biggest villain of this season. Honestly. Which is we've had a season where we've been starving for villains.
Right.
And so Bruce is filling that role fairly nicely. And man, that's why I say it is kind of a beautiful fall from grace for Bruce, because he's taking on a big role. Villains play a big role on Survivor, and he's shouldering that load pretty much by himself right now.
It's hard for reality TV contestants to go out on a high. I see this exact pattern on the Bachelor franchise all the time. You get a contestant who is super likable, say Brendan from Tasha's season. He gets us heartbroken, and America loves him. Sweetheart, we love you. Then Bachelor in Paradise comes around, and he thinks, why not? I'll take a swing on it. And becomes America's opposite of a sweetheart. He's down 50,000 followers on Instagram. He's canceled. Everybody's mad at him. It's hard for these people just to quit when they're ahead. They get the sympathy, they get the love from the fans of these TV shows, and they just want more and more and more, and it ends up kind of ruining their reputation in the end.
Yeah.
Bruce could have just ended on that high. We could have felt bad for him, but been like, man, we respect the guy. That's too bad.
Yeah, he could have kept his celebrity status for the rest of his life. But we do move on to an immunity challenge. And before we get to that challenge, let's take a quick break. With Christmas less than 2 months away, now is the perfect time to head over to Jancy & Co. to snag some of those great holiday deals for that special someone in your life. Macrame, embroideries, weavings, Jancy & Co. is here to make the perfect alliance with your holiday shopping needs. For a limited time, save 26% with code HOLIDAYMERGE at Jancy & Co. on Etsy and at jancy.com.
I pride myself in being a good gift giver, and one of the key elements to that is getting a unique custom gift. This is going to be so special. Nobody's going to have the item that you gift from Jancy & Co. That's JANCYANNCO.
And we're back. Let's get ourselves a challenge breakdown, Mags. You want to break it down for us?
You got it. I know that a lot of our listeners aren't watching this season and just listen in, so I'm going to try and be a little more descriptive to these challenges. Luckily, this is an easy one to start with. They have to hold on to a 13-foot pole and hang on for as long as they can. Once they drop, they're out. But there's a twist for this challenge. They are divided into groups of 6, and the person who lasts the longest in each group wins immunity. So 2 people are going to be immune tonight. However, these same groups will attend tribal council separately and each vote off 1 person. So not only will 2 people be safe, but 2 people will be going home.
Dun dun dun.
Let me just say, I freaking love this challenge. When it gave the little drone shot coming in, I was so excited. I love the endurance challenges so much. And this one specifically because this has nothing to do with physical strength. I looked up the history of everybody who's won this challenge. And sure, it has some iconic people, Ozzy, Joe, but there have been a lot of people who've won this challenge who are not known for physical strength. Take Ty, for example. People who are known for being small, not physically fit, etc., etc. It's these people who can get in this space in their head that I like to call zen. They can just be zen. They can fly through this challenge. And you saw it with the winner of this challenge today.
Yeah, it seems like pain tolerance is the number one indicator for success in this challenge.
Absolutely.
The other aspect of this challenge is it is also a reward challenge. So between the 2 finalists from each group, whoever lasts the longest wins a reward for their group. They get to go to the sanctuary and eat tacos and drink soft drinks and chat it up and go back to their home camp. The losing group, or the one of the winner that doesn't last as long, that group gets no tacos. They have to actually go back to the old Lulu Beach with none of their things, no food, nothing, and they just spend the day there getting ready for tribal council. The other big thing that is brutal about this, the losing group goes to tribal council first, and the person that's voted out at their tribal council does not get to be on the jury. And everybody knows if you don't make the jury, you're basically useless. It is the goal for everyone. If you're going to lose, at least be on the jury. So then you get to continue to participate all the way up to the finale. Everybody that goes home from the jury, you're forgotten about pretty much instantly.
Also, little known fact, if you're on the jury, you do get paid.
Really?
Obviously, it's not as much.
Yeah, that's good to know. So they're playing a little bit for money,
Right.
unspoken.
Mm-hmm.
That was a brutal thought that they all typically, once you've made the merge, you're definitely on the jury. And so to realize that you would make the merge but still could maybe not be on the jury, that's probably, a really devastating thing for these players. They draw rocks for the groups. It's a random rock draw. We have a blue group and a red group. Classic. They love doing blue versus red.
Everybody does. Every board game that has 2 teams is blue-red.
I wrote down the groups.
Let's hear it.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
In the blue group, we have Bruce, Sifu, Kendra, Kelly, Drew, and Emily. And in the red group, we have Jake, Dee, Austin, Julie, Caleb, and Katura. All right, Mags, you see these 2 groups standing side by side. Who jumps out at you? Who's going to win this challenge?
Well, I immediately thought of Dee's big toe.
Me too. Immediately.
And so I'm thinking this whole time, if D has the mental strength plus the big toe, unstoppable.
This was my one concern, is they have those little grooves that you can kind of put your feet into.
Mhm.
What if her big toe was too big to fit into the groove? That was my problem. But then I was reminded later in the episode, they're just long. They're not particularly
Wide.
large. Yeah. They're just long toes, which, man, what are the chances she would come in here talking so much smack, just chatting up her big toes, and she'd have a few chances to prove it right away?
Honestly.
What are the chances that someone talks so much about their big toes and they get this challenge?
Uh-huh.
The old pole hold, hold a pole,
It's
whatever it's
actually
called.
I actually saw what it was called. Let's see.
Oh, it has a name?
Yeah, it's called Get a Grip. Every challenge has a name,
Get a
and this
grip.
one's Get a Grip.
Oh, that's a good one. That's better than the pole hold.
It is better than the pole hold.
I mean, I would just shorten it to poled.
That's not bad.
I know.
You are onto something here. I do have to say, I did notice she hardly used her big toe. She did for a minute, but she took a pose that I hadn't really seen before.
Mm-hmm.
She was like sitting on the pole.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. She was at like a 90-degree angle on the pole. I don't even know. Her legs were looped around it.
Yeah, she was kind
How
of
can
like
you describe this?
straddling it and leaning back. So she had her arms and legs
Like
around
the
it.
back of her thighs were
Mhm.
flush to the pole.
Her butt was against the pole. She's leaning back as she's, straddling this pole. The old pole hold, as I think we call it.
Pulled.
The poled. Mm-hmm. And what was it actually called? Get a
Oh, the
grip.
challenge?
Yeah,
Yeah.
get a grip. I think she was in a very unique pose the whole time.
Right.
But we start the challenge, and right away, Emily starts sliding down. Apparently, as a market analyst, she's doesn't do a lot of pole holding. I mean, it seemed pretty obvious at that point that she did not have a lot of experience.
There were a few people who I could tell right away weren't going to make it, and she was one of them. When you've only been up there for a few minutes and you're already making faces of distress,
Mm-hmm. You're a goner.
you're fired. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a
I know
goner.
that you're not lasting for a long
Yeah,
time.
it's the Zen people. You're right.
It's like we said, it's about pain management. And when you're squinting your face and gritting your teeth, I just know that you're not handling this very well. And like
Mm-hmm.
I've said a million times, it's a mental game.
Thoughts are invasive, and if you
Mhm.
start thinking I need to give up,
Mm-hmm.
you're done.
Yep.
You're gone.
They're dropping like flies, to be honest.
Yes, Emily goes down. Julie goes down shortly thereafter, apologizing as she goes, which I thought that was a little tone deaf. Why would you be apologizing for these people for losing to them?
Yeah.
They are thrilled that you're dropping
Can
off,
you
Julie.
imagine? She goes down. You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly. That's what she should have been saying. Of course, they want you to drop. Anyway, Drew goes up. Oh, no, Drew doesn't go up. Drew is sitting up there. I wrote this down. This is funny. He's sitting up there. Emily, who's sitting on the bench, is yelling up to him, Drew, you look great up there. He says, yeah, I'm a model up here. It looks like he's squatting. He's in like a squatting position.
Uh-huh.
It made me laugh. I thought that was a good line.
That's so funny because I didn't catch that, but I did get a different quote. Drew is slowly sliding down the pole in just this really awkward way.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeff notes, this is not looking good for Drew. And I'm like, you could say that again.
Not just in the challenge, but doesn't look good for him.
Yeah, if he's not a meme after this.
It's not. I thought for a second, when Drew's at the he's perched at the very top of that pole.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, part of this challenge, you can't touch the top of the pole, but you can get up to the top, right? And you just can't put your hands up there. And I thought he was going to fall from the heavens. He starts saying his legs are falling asleep while he's up there. and I thought he was just going to drop all 13 feet onto his back. I was worried for him.
This challenge surprisingly has not led to any major injuries, but 13 feet, that's a long way to fall.
Drew makes it all the way down to the final two in his group. It's in the blue group. It's Drew and Kelly are the last two. Kelly looks pretty zen. She hasn't really moved the whole challenge. Drew, of course, is sliding down painfully. Not just painful for his thighs, but painful for us to watch.
Mm-hmm. Painful for his image.
Painful for future job prospects. And
when you look up Drew from Survivor.
That's right. That's right. Hopefully they don't do a background check on him, and that's the image that they see. But Drew drops out, and Kelly ends up winning it for the blue group. She gets the immunity, but she is still trying to win the reward for the blue group.
Yeah.
So she stays up there. In the meantime, there are still 4 people left in the red group. In the red group, you have Caleb, Austin, Dee, and Katura. Austin drops out next, and then Caleb drops out, and it's between Dee and Katura. Dee, like we were talking about earlier, she looked zen.
Mm-hmm.
She had the pain management thing down.
She kissed the pole.
Katura, she slides down, and she's out. Mm-hmm. So Dee wins immunity for the red group. Those two we know now are both safe, and now it's just who wants the immunity, and also who is trying to kind of secure for their group a jury spot.
Right.
Which they don't really care about that much, probably, because they know they're both safe. But it's a nice gesture.
There was
whoever in your group.
Yeah. This reminded me of a few seasons ago. You remember that lady, Nora, who played?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure it was this challenge, but I can't be sure. No, it wasn't, but it was another endurance challenge. Exact same setup. She won for her group, but was still competing for food. And as soon as she won her personal immunity, dropped out, and everybody was like, Nora, the sandwiches.
I remember that. Jeff makes an interesting point there that both Dee and Kelly, while they're up there, neither of them got to eat at the merge feast. Of course, Jeff calls it a merge meal just to spite us. But neither of them got to eat. They're lightweight. They got nothing in their stomachs. They're streamlined. Mm-hmm. Of course it's easier for them. Bruce, he was pounding whatever food they had. I can't remember what it was.
Beer.
He had a full belly he had to hold up there on that pole. So of course he dropped out. I thought one of the more epic moments of this challenge was when Kelly is showing signs of weakness.
Yes.
We get a shot of Dee kind of clocking that, and she looks over to her group sitting on the bench and just says, "We're going to eat."
Yes.
We're going to eat.
I love that. This goes along with the message I'm trying to send home about this challenge being a mental game. Even if you're not feeling it, saying to the one person you're against, like, I could go all night. I could go all day.
All day. She just channeled her Schmidt. Yes. She was up there on that pole. She just looked over at Kelly. I could go all day.
I do this all day.
All day, son.
But once you start talking like that, you got to be the first person to do it, you know? Mm-hmm. You don't want to get it done to you. But as soon as you start talking about how comfortable you are, how you could last for a long time up there, it really gets into the other person's head, and that's what happened here.
Absolutely.
She says to those guys, 100% certainty, we're going to eat.
Yeah. Which, epic. Mm-hmm. Epic quote. Kelly, indeed, falls off the pole first. Dee wins it for the red group. They get the reward. The blue group is the group that goes to tribal first and has to go back to the old Lulu Beach with nothing. Man, Jake comes over. They're all celebrating that they've won the reward. Jake goes and says, "First taco goes to Dee, huh? First taco goes to Dee." I thought, yeah, that's the least you could do. She just won you all tacos. How about the first 10 tacos go to Dee? You all have to watch her.
Tacos are tiny.
Yeah.
First crumb goes to D.
I can't even fathom having the nerve of having D win that for you, and somebody goes and eats a taco before she does. That would be incredibly rude. Just the table manners would be unbelievable.
Now, I know at some point Jeff mentions amount of time that was passed. I think he said like 17 minutes had passed. So I think in total the whole challenge was probably under 30 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
I looked up the record for this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your guess for the longest time somebody was on the pole?
I know a lot of these challenges go really, really long, but I don't think this one could go that long. I mean, longer than 30 minutes, but probably not longer than 2 hours.
It's longer than 2 hours.
How long is it?
3 hours and 15 minutes.
Man, that's crazy.
That is crazy. And it did remind me that a lot of times when we watch this challenge, they get off the pole and people's legs, they have like sea legs.
They don't work.
They're like, they wobble, they fall completely to the ground. They can't make it to the sit out bench. Like, this challenge has gone for a lot longer in the past. So it's kind of crazy the difference in length between this one and one's previous.
Yeah. Players these days are getting soft.
Honestly.
We get a great confessional from Dee after she's won the challenge, kind of talking herself up, and she talks about her toes because of course she does. And at the very end of her confessional, she says, "Oh boy." It seemed to wash over her the realization that because she's won this challenge, all the moments of her talking about her toes are going to make the cut. She was just saying those things in camp thinking, there's no way that's going to air. But now she realizes that now it's crucial to the plot.
Right.
And she's going to, her toes are going to be a main character this season. It hits her hard. We get the next segment, which is the sanctuary. We have the red group showing up. Dee gets the first taco, just like they promised her.
I got some beef with this reward.
What's the beef?
Jeff says that the reward is make your own tacos. And is that a reward? I'm just trying to think, if I was coming home from a long day at work and I was telling my husband I'm exhausted, and he said, "That's okay, I'm going to let you come home and make some dinner for yourself." They're on Survivor. This is what we were just saying. Why are these rewards going so downhill? Here's some raw fish that we got from the beach right in front of your camp. Make your own tacos. They used to get flown in helicopters.
You know what I'd like to see?
What?
I'd like to see these new castaways have some nerve to stand up to it. Boycott the rewards.
You can resume back to the breakdown. I just had to get my venting out about the making your own tacos.
Well, that's pretty much it. I don't have much of a taco breakdown, but they do start talking about a little bit about, strategy and things. Julie, just in a talking head, says, "I kept thinking we're all just voting Caleb, right?" And I thought, come on, Julie, you're better than that. Like, you've seen the show. Why would everybody do the exact same thing that they just did?
They never do.
Yep. And finally, we get someone who sees shield potential.
I noted this as well. For the first time ever this season, somebody makes sense of using a shield.
And of course, we talked about this last podcast. Why hasn't anybody wanted to use shields, right? Or keep people as shields? And it gets mentioned probably 1,000 times tonight.
So many times. This was just the start of it.
Jake is proposing some really smart gameplay. The only flaw, and it's not really it's not his fault, but the only flaw in the gameplay is that it's 3-on-3. So it's him, Caleb, and Katura potentially against the other three, which is Dee, Julie, and Austin. He doesn't really have the numbers to make a play, but he wants to make a play, which I appreciated so much. That's what I wanted to see instead of what Julie was just proposing of just getting rid of Caleb.
Right.
So.
Not thinking, just doing.
Exactly. some people are really not thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead, and some people are,
Mhm.
and it's starting to cause some clashes.
Right.
We go back to the old Lulu Beach, and Drew has left his only advantage, his safety without power, in his bag back at their actual camp, back
Yep.
at home.
This happened in a few seasons past.
Mhm.
Bring your bag with you, people.
Everywhere.
Everywhere you go, you bring your bag
Yep.
because now he is without his advantage.
Mhm. He has no safety and very little power. Kendra seems like she's finally willing to go for Bruce. I think this is a moment where she's not thinking 4 or 5 steps ahead. She's thinking about, I don't like this guy. I want to vote him out.
She's not thinking about making $1 million. She's thinking about making camp life more enjoyable, which
Yeah.
is a trap a lot of people fall into.
Yeah. And with Bruce as well, I think he also does hurt her gameplay a little bit just because he's hard to work with.
Sure.
He's
But
not
he is a
just not
number for her.
likable. He's not just, he's a number, but he's a difficult number.
Sure.
But at this point, Kelly is trying to talk some sense into her because they can't afford to get rid of their difficult numbers. They have to vote out people on the other side first, and then you can get rid of the difficult numbers like Bruce.
Mm.
Kelly's got a great point there. Bruce, of course, sniffs it out immediately. It was crazy. He was like, I think Kendra's going for me.
Yeah, I'm honestly always shocked at how people pick up on things like this on
Mm-hmm.
Survivor. It's incredible. This like sense that people have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I'd have it,
Yeah.
which is probably why I'd make great TV. I'd just be the big idiot on the beach.
Well, it seems Bruce is just Bruce is more self-aware than we thought.
Right.
He's like, yeah, I think Kendra's trying to vote me out because I'm a jerk. Seems like he just knows.
Mm-hmm. He's leaning into the brand now.
Yeah, and now Kelly has to play this role of like marriage counselor basically and try and
That is
bridge.
wild that you said marriage counselor because I literally wrote down in my notes Kelly plays therapist
Yep.
because Kendra is venting to her about Bruce. Kendra wants Bruce gone.
Mm-hmm.
And like a great therapist or parent, Kelly says, you're so right. Bruce is so annoying. He's so hard to work with. He's unpredictable. Blah, blah, blah. After completely validating and making sure that Kendra feels heard and knows that she's a good friend, she says, but Bruce does have to stay. And she says it in
Kendra's
such
like,
a way that Kendra's
yeah,
just like, yeah, you're right. And she totally gets Kendra to switch.
yeah,
It's incredible.
it's true. I mean,
Power of therapy.
yeah, validates her feelings and helps her see clearly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I'm just annoyed. Just don't like him. It's a great point. Back at the Dakuwaka Beach. And say it like that for the rest of the season. Austin also wants to keep Caleb. He's kind of got the same thoughts as Jake. He wants to use Caleb as a shield. I thought I wanted D to see the light on this as well,
Me
to keep
too.
Caleb as a shield. And of course, I think we're both biased because we
Mhm.
like Caleb. But he is a great shield. I mean, he showed today he's not going to be great. He doesn't have the zen,
Right.
and so many of these challenges, these endurance challenges require that. Caleb probably won't be as big a personal threat unless they're basketball challenges, right? Unless they're playing one-on-one out there. He's not going to be as big a threat in the challenges as everybody thought he was going to be. I needed D to see the light here so you can save him as a big target for someone else to target later.
Right.
But she doesn't. She just wants to get rid of him. She's so bitter about him calling her out.
Yep. I was just gonna say, I love a good grudge, but not when it's against Caleb.
Yeah, she's got the grudge and she's ready to go. It seems though, I mean, she's saying she's in the power position because she has the immunity necklace. But it's sometimes you just want to remind people, just because you have the immunity necklace doesn't mean your vote is worth more.
Yeah. And people fall into that all the time. And I hate those little moments of cockiness from people when they are like, yeah, it's my choice tonight. And it's like, no, you're just not going home, but you don't get to decide who is.
Exactly. And it does mean it enables you to be bolder, certainly, with the moves that you want to do. You could be more open about who you want to go home. You can, be more involved in the talks without having to be worried about if people are lying and it's actually you, all that good stuff. So it does come with quite a bit of power, but it doesn't give you two votes. You
Yeah.
still have the same amount of votes as everybody else. So if everybody else decided it's not Caleb and it's Julie, Julie's going home
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you do.
Right. We get another fantastic Caleb quote. This one just touched my heart, but he says, the quality of options is not nearly as great as the quantity of options. When you meet your people, you just know. That was over some B-roll of him with Katura, and you just see, oh man, like they're making a great friendship, which Jake stomps all over on accident.
Well, this is ironic because it's actually Caleb's idea,
Uh huh.
and what he's trying to do, his idea is to tell Katura that Bruce has an idol because she's the only one from the old Bellow tribe that doesn't know. And Austin somehow knows as well. And I don't know how, I don't remember how Austin knows, but Caleb seems convinced that Austin knows. Caleb is worried that Austin is going to tell Katura about Bruce's idol to
Mm-hmm.
turn Katura against them.
Right.
Caleb unfortunately kind of outplays himself here because he's anticipating Austin to do something really smart.
Mm-hmm.
And if Austin doesn't do this, this is not the right play.
It's still, in my opinion, it still could have been great. I think they really needed to get their story straight, and they really needed to pitch it in a structured way to Katura,
Mm-hmm.
such as, I'm so glad we're finally here without Bruce. I've been dying to tell you, Bruce has the idol.
Mm-hmm.
Don't make it seem like you're only telling her now because you want her to work with you in this weird split, but
Mm-hmm.
make it sound like now that you're finally alone without Bruce, you can finally tell her this thing you've been dying to tell her.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sell it like
Right.
that because they don't. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially Jake.
Jake
And
ruins this. I think Katura was going to go with him.
all Jake does is reveal to her exactly where she stood with the Bellow Alliance, which is
Exactly.
in the very bottom.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else knew except for her.
Mm-hmm.
And all he had to say was, yeah, no, everybody else thought it was actually my rings. And she says, oh, is that why you were looking for your rings? Is that why everybody was looking for your rings? Did everybody know about the idol? He just has to say no.
Yeah,
It was just me
exactly.
and Bruce, and Caleb found out
Mm-hmm.
later. But I was just making that thing up about the rings.
Right.
But instead he says, yeah, everybody knew but you.
Gotcha.
But then he says, but I got your back.
As
What?
if, right.
That's the big risk in Caleb's plan here is they're just revealing to Katura her position within the Bellow Alliance. And if she's at the bottom there, that makes it a lot easier to go to the bottom of the Reba Alliance and vote out Caleb in this moment.
Right.
It makes no difference to her. Back at the old Lulu Beach, Sifu talks about how he's such a big threat, which I think is kind of funny. Did you think that was funny?
Yeah, if you're a buff guy who plays Survivor, you're going to perceive yourself as a threat. Even though you've won 0 individual immunity challenges and you haven't proven to be an incredible asset to your team, it just seems to me that buff dudes are always going to say I'm a threat.
Yep, exactly. And people talking about shields left and right
Mm-hmm.
here on the old Lulu Beach. Kelly says that Bruce is a great shield. I had some beef with this. Bruce is the opposite of a shield. Bruce is a goat.
I'd agree with that.
Nobody likes Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to vote to give him $1 million. Bruce will make it to the end. He will get pulled to the end.
Yeah.
Because he's a villain, because he antagonizes and people don't like him.
Right.
People will pull him into the final 3 because they know no one's going to vote for him. He's not a good person to bring along as a shield because he will end up taking your place in the final 3. That's my opinion.
Yep. I like your opinion. I agree with it.
What's the opposite of a shield?
A pile of goo.
He's a pile of goo. That's what he is. After this chat, I thought, this is what I wrote down, I think Sifu is going home.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Julie is going home, or there's going to be a rock draw. Those are my predictions.
Yeah, those were great predictions based on the information we had.
So we get to Tribal Council number 1. It's night 14. My first thought was Jeff's stool that he sits on at Tribal Council. Do you think that's padded?
Ooh, that is an interesting question. But no, I don't.
They're sitting there for like a couple hours.
Yeah, and he did it twice tonight.
Yeah.
Jeff's not really a diva. I get the feeling.
I don't know. He makes a lot of money. Enough to coddle that little tush of his. I think he might have some padding in that stool.
Heck, the guy should just be sitting on a throne out there.
He's the king.
Okay, so speaking of all of the shield talk and Sifu being a threat, Sifu says he thinks he's going to go home because he's a threat. And Bruce says, well, I can relate because I myself am a threat. And then it cuts to Sifu kind of make it like a
I thought
face.
I wrote in my notes, Sifu felt, well, that wasn't very validating,
yeah,
Bruce.
Honestly, it made me think, I have this cousin who is so pretty, and everybody always says we look alike. And when somebody says that to me, I'm like, no way, really? I'm so flattered. But I'm sure that when somebody says it to her, she's like, nah, I don't know about that. And I think this is how Sifu was feeling, like, okay, don't bring me down to your level.
I thought that was funny. Bruce does not have the validating gene in him.
No, he doesn't.
It's not. He's gonna make it about himself. It's like, man, if Sifu thinks he's got it bad, I'll tell you, I'm famous and a threat. They read the votes. Everybody goes for their votes. Everybody's kind of talking in generalities, generalizations. Nobody's really giving out information during the chat, the tribal council chat. Bruce does talk about fractures in alliances, as if he's not the guy who just like walks around with a sledgehammer during camp life, fracturing everything. But they go to the vote, and Jeff is reading the votes. He reads 1 vote for Bruce, and he reads 1, 2, 3 votes for Sifu. After he reads the 3rd vote for Sifu, Bruce just hits him on the arm and is like, "Hey, that means it's you, buddy. Like, just 1 more and you're gone. I don't think you have any hope left." It's like, Bruce, really? Did you need to do that in that moment?
Honestly, yeah.
And Sifu is voted out.
Sifu gets voted out
unanimously.
And he says the first words out of his mouth is, "You guys are awesome." And then he says, "Thank you."
He takes this vote out with incredible humility.
Yeah,
considering
it's not
all the
what I
other
want to
things.
see. I want to see Michaela status. You're so mad and you're cussing out your tribe mates that you forget your dang shoes. That's what I want to see. Bring that back. People are too nice now.
I forgot about that. Yeah, no, Sifu, he takes his torch out. He's crushed because he doesn't even make the jury. That's the saddest part of this. His exit interview, so classy.
It was, and it was almost like the real Sifu. Like he wasn't being a character.
Yeah.
And it did make me really like him. I already did like him. I love when somebody has a big personality like that on Survivor, but it made me sad to see him go.
It was honestly, this episode was the first time we got to see any kind of depth to Sifu.
Depth, that's the word I'm looking for, exactly.
We get a bonus tribal council. Number 2, 914. I thought they must have just gotten the same script as the first one, because they're all basically saying the same things.
Right.
Just speaking in vague generalizations, not giving
Yep.
up any information. And until Caleb's speech, Caleb kind of gives this speech about he gets a new day. He's been hitting the brakes hard. He was too likable, made too many friends, too popular, and so everybody tried to vote for him. So he's trying to turn over a new leaf and work with
Too
people.
popular, gain muscle too easy. Can
Exactly.
eat food and the weight just falls right off of him.
That's right. There's too many
Naturally
prospective
smells good.
mates out there. Yeah, so many crazy things. It's kind of gives me a little bit of hope until Katura kind of laughs and says, Caleb approached me, but at the end of the day, I'm going to make the decision that's best for me. And to me, that was my first indication of she might flip on the Bello tribe
Yeah.
tonight. They go to the voting booth and we see D vote. She is so salty.
She's so salty.
It's hilarious.
Uh-huh.
She says, I could have worked with you until you burned that bridge last night. It's like, didn't you vote for him?
Yeah. Got her.
Wait a second. Forgot about that.
It's always funny to me what people say in the little voting booth to the camera.
Mm-hmm.
On a long list of reasons why I would be a poor Survivor player, I know I'd make for boring TV, because I would never want to say anything that, if I were wrong, would be
Embarrassing.
Embarrassing. Yes.
You would be in there writing your vote and say, I think this is where it's going to go, but if not, it might not. I mean, I don't know for sure. I only know a little bit.
Exactly. I always think about how Sandra, whenever she played Winners at War, so she'd already won twice before this. And in every single vote, she would say to the camera, and the queen stays queen. And it was so cool until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't. She got voted
out, and it was like, ugh. Now all of those are just
the queen is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, Jake has a moment right here where he says something along the lines of, I just got told what to do in the last vote, but I'm doing my own thing here, kind of a thing. I don't know. I can't remember exactly what he said. It just came off to me that he was like trying to impress his dad or something. He's like really trying to show his family that he's independent and is living on his own. I have my own apartment now. Like, they read the votes here for Tribal Council number 2. Jeff goes through. We have 2 votes on Julie, and that's Caleb and Jake's votes. And then we have, unfortunately, Katura stabs Caleb in the back. And
me in the heart.
And you in the heart. And Caleb goes home here. No more shot in the dark to protect him.
Oh, I was so sad. And there's a long moment, where Caleb's like collecting himself. And I wasn't sure which way he was going to go there.
Yep.
I kind of thought, oh, here comes my big reaction. But he had kind of the similar face and looked like decision that Cody had when Jesse blindsided him. Where you can see he has a moment where he's like, actually in real life very ticked off, but has to like be like, all right, I'm playing a game, I'm being filmed right now, take myself out of the heat of the moment and give a good reaction here. Yeah,
if I want to win that Sia favorite player award.
Yeah, see, season, that's right. Sia gives what, like $10,000?
$100,000.
Oh wow. It was kind of funny when I was thinking of Jesse and Cody. I remember that scene so clearly in my head. And I just realized, like, I have a lot of Survivor memories. And I remember a lot of the contestants. And I cannot remember how to say the word mozzarella cheese the right way.
There's no N.
It's like, how does my brain decide what's important to keep and what should go? Because I have all of this Survivor history. And yeah, words like ornaments. There's no D in it, but
ornaments.
But I cannot remember it because my head is so full of this useless information.
Caleb gets to be our first member of our jury, which honestly, if you're going to lose, that's a good spot to lose. I mean, you're out.
Yeah.
You're the first member of the jury, but you get to take a shower and eat before anybody else.
That's true.
just as much
if you're gonna
disappointment as
lose,
everybody
you might as
else.
well lose right at this point.
Mhm.
You're right. Still on the jury, but you didn't have to starve for another 2 weeks
Yeah, exactly.
just to be the last member.
Yeah. Let's go over our voting stats. They got significantly more boring with Caleb getting
They
voted out.
really did. The voting stats are so bleak. It's kind of crazy. So here we have Bruce, 1 vote. D, 1 vote. Drew, 2 votes. Emily, 1 vote. Julie, 2 votes. That's it.
That's not much. These surviving, I mean, the people with votes, obviously the most votes go home. So it makes a lot of sense,
Sure.
but it'll be interesting to see how Julie and Jake patch things up after Jake, voted for her unsuccessfully.
Yeah.
And we'll see when everybody comes back together how things shake out. Let's get to our worst move and best move. Mags, you got the worst move this week?
I would have to say, I think that Jake made a mistake voting for Julie. I really do believe that he needs to make a big move and that he does need to show some sort of independence in this game or leadership, something to build his resume. I just think this wasn't the time for him. And I hate to say this because I did not want Caleb to go home, but Jake really kind of burned a bridge there with his alliance, and now they're going to go back when the tribe gets all back together and everybody's going to know, what he did. And I just think that wasn't the right time, and he wasn't confident in the numbers.
Yeah. I've got best move. And ironically, I thought his move was a good one, and I would have put the worst move on Katura because I think she panic flipped.
Yeah.
When in actuality, nobody likes Bruce. He's really at the bottom of the Bello Alliance, not Katura.
Right.
But because he's got the idol and everybody knew about it, she thought they were all tighter with Bruce than with her, which is not reality.
Right.
So I'm stealing worst move. I'm going to put it on her.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Best move. I got best move. And my best move is kind of a boring one. It's just going to be Austin. He kept his idol to himself.
Love
he
it.
kept his head down. He is in the best spot.
Mm-hmm.
Him and Emily are my 2 front runners right now. And both of them played great because this is the point of the game where you want your head down.
Yeah.
This is the spot where you make it another 2 or 3 tribal councils, and then you wake up and make a few more moves.
Right.
So great for Austin for keeping his head down and avoiding being a target.
Right. Now, something to keep your eye on from here on out. There have been a lot of times when you see people in the final 3 and somebody in our eyes as the viewer is the clear winner, but they cannot portray that. They're having a hard time verbalizing all of their moves, and they cannot do it. And you see that
articulate everything that they've done.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a lot of times their fall. Take, for example, on Xander's season. You remember him, the guy with the long hair who'd wear his hat, his
buff in a funky way. Mm-hmm.
But he was like the clear winner to me in that season. And then you get to the final tribal, and he just cannot articulate it, and he doesn't win.
Mm-hmm.
And so something to keep your eye on here is who are the narrators this season? Who get a lot of talking heads? Because they get talking heads because they're good at describing the story.
It's true.
And Emily gets quite a bit. And so
Emily gets quite a few. Austin also gets quite a few.
So they're good storytellers.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I just think even if Julie makes it to the end, clearly she's not a good storyteller. She doesn't get a lot of camera time. So this is just something, and this is just me, like I said, leaning into the logic and editing of it. Something to track. Before the mailbag, I have to say, I am so freaking excited for next episode. I saw the trailer for next week, and the Survivor auction is back, okay? I am beyond thrilled for this. The Survivor auction is one of my all-time favorite segments on Survivor, So we have got a lot to look forward to next week.
The problem with this is everybody's going to save their money
No,
for
I'm
the
sure.
advantage.
I know that's how that's why they ended up canceling it. There's no way they brought it back and aren't going to have some enforces for that, some rules for that.
There's going to be something to change it up.
Yes.
We'll get to our mailbag. Our mailbag this week is, how do you feel about the shot in the dark advantage? We got some good responses on social media and in the email. Our first response was from Madison from Canada. As you might imagine, a big Caleb fan. She says, "Holy crap. This episode was insane. I have been missing this sort of drama in my life, and the shot in the dark, I literally have no words. I actually did not fully understand it until y'all explained it in this week's episode, and now that I do, wow, I love it. I cannot believe it worked out for Caleb, but I am so happy it did. I literally gasped when Jeff read safe. I'm with y'all. He needs to stay in this game, and I'm so glad the shot in the dark is a thing, or he would be a goner. Literally every single vote was for him. The dude is going to have to the dude is going to have some serious work to do to stay in this game. The drama. This is what we've been waiting for. Hashtag Team Canadian Batman." Thank you, Madison. This is D Slimmer from TikTok, says, "The shot in the dark could not have possibly been played at a better time than this, and the outcome was chef's kiss." Thank you, D Slimmer. Chelsea from St. George, Utah, said, "I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but I hate this advantage. I'm glad it worked out for Caleb because I like him, but I think all immunities should be won or earned, not given by luck."
Okay.
Thank you, Chelsea. Alexander in Japan says, "The shot in the dark has been something I want them to take out from the day they put it in. When it worked, it was bittersweet because I was happy for Caleb, but felt now like the producers are just going to justify keeping it in the game forever." Thank you, Alexander. Mick in Utah said, "I honestly don't even know if I fully understood the shot in the dark until this last episode, and I have to say, I'm a fan. I wasn't ready to see Caleb go. Now I'm just wishing Jay had a shot in the dark back in his seasons. He could have won with those odds. Ha ha." Thank you, Mick. I'm assuming Mick is talking about the Jay from Millennials versus Gen X. Yeah,
Right.
he did. He was exactly like Caleb, where he was this big kind of social physical threat, young guy who was playing really, really well and just ran out of ways to save himself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Great submissions in the mailbag this week.
Fantastic.
We got some from both sides showing the polarization of modern day Survivor. It's much like our current political climate. Did you want to talk more about that?
Anyways, moving on to the question of the week. I want to know, what segment do you like better on Survivor? The auction or a loved one's visit?
Okay. That's our question of the week this week. The auction versus the loved ones' visits. Which part of old Survivor have you missed more? I also have a mini question. Can I add a second question?
I'll allow it.
My second question is, I forgot it. Lights are too bright in here.
3 hours later.
Oh, this is my question. Bruce, do you love him? Do you hate him? Do you love to hate him?
That is not a mini question. That is a loaded question.
I just want to hear what the people have to say.
And I swear, if we get more answers for Sam's question than my question, thanks again for your love on social media. I will take screenshots and post to our Instagram everything that we've referred to today. If I missed something, just let us know.
Yeah, follow us on Instagram. We're at the Merge Feast Pod. We're also on TikTok at the Merge Feast Pod, or on Twitter/X at the Merge Feast. You can message us there. Send us your thoughts. We can read those on the podcast, or you can of course email us. We're themergefeastpod@gmail.com. We invite you to leave us a 5-star review because our compensation is tied directly to our reviews. Thank you guys for listening. We'll talk to you guys next week.